I think I most relate to the disciples in Mark 14, when Jesus is in the garden and he's praying before his arrest and his crucifixion. He comes to find the disciples sleeping, and they didn't know what to say to him. What can you say at a time like that? Death is pressing down on Jesus like a tectonic plate, and his friends are helpless to help him. It's not a situation that you'd expect to find the creator of the universe in. But Jesus is praying, he's begging really, that God will take away this fate that is coming towards him. That it could be any other way. He's praying from such a deep place inside him, it's like he's sweating blood. You can see him looking at his hands, maybe surprised to see them shaking. His palms slick with sweat and wondering what it will be like to have hammers nail him to a cross. What do you say at a time like that? Jesus knows the same thing that human beings have always known, that every life has an end, even his. Matthew 26 and Mark 14 both say that the disciples slept because their eyes were heavy. But Luke 22 says they were sleeping because of grief. Jesus and his disciples are watching death sweep toward them like thunderheads on the horizon, and their bodies are reacting to the thing that their bodies can't accept. It's the body's job to keep us alive, and it does that job admirably, even though it's a foregone conclusion all the way to the very end. And so Jesus feels it viscerally. He is deeply grieved. He falls to his knees. He cries out from the pit of his gut. Tears roll down his cheeks with beads of sweat like drops of blood. And his disciples, they retreat to the only thing left for them to do. In their sadness and in their helplessness, they're exhausted. And they fall into unconsciousness. Their eyes are heavy. And how could they not be when the alternative is to witness the thing that you least want to see? How do you abide in that? The spirit can be plenty willing, but the flesh has priorities, and not dying is top of them. But in the end, no one outruns the storm. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And if the last few years have taught us anything, it's that death is all too real, all too immediate, whether you are the one dying or mourning the one who's been gone. The rhythm of the Christian faith is a constant confrontation of death with life. When at the beginning of Lent, my forehead was marked by ashes, and I was told that I am from the earth and I will return to it. That cross traced the same cross that was left there by my baptism, which is itself a mark of passage from death into life. The old me has died and the new me lives. When we gather around the table to celebrate the Lord's meal, we are provided for both our spiritual and physical lives by a God who doesn't seem to make a distinction between the two. On Easter morning, around the world, people will say in thousands of languages with billions of mouths that Christ is no longer dead, that he is alive, and we are promised the same. It's not to say that Jesus didn't really die. It's not to say that death doesn't hurt, and I mean this with all its theological connotations, like hell. It's to say that death, as real as it is and as hellish as it is, does not get the final word. Whether we recognize it or not, our entire lives are kind of abiding in the shadow of death. The question is what we choose to do with that, what kind of power we give to death. On the one hand, denying death seems futile, and on the other, despairing in death seems like a good way to die 1,000 times before they finally plant you. Instead, we can tell the whole truth. We can abide, we can really live in the shadow of death because God does too. And that shadow has an edge. It has a border. And our God does not. Thanks be to God.